Before the world could even process the first viral clip, something far darker was already in motion. A message left at a grave. Security footage erased. A name from the past resurfacing after 23 years. What looked like internet drama between King Harris and 50 Cent might actually be the trigger for something much bigger. Because this isn't just a feud anymore. It's a setup. And someone has been waiting a long time to make their move. When the sun rose over Jamaica, Queens that morning, something already felt off. Not on the surface, not in the headlines, but behind the scenes where real chaos begins. Because what started as a loud, messy internet moment between King Harris and 50 Cent wasn't just online beef anymore. It was turning into something else. Something colder. Something darker. And nobody saw it coming. At first, it looked like nothing more than a viral clip. King talking reckless, acting bold, throwing words at a man who built his entire career on confrontation and dominance. People online laughed. Memes started spreading. Clips got reposted. It looked like just another internet moment that would burn out in 48 hours. But behind that laughter, something else was building. Because someone didn't just hear those words. Someone took them personally. And that's when everything shifted. Hours later, at a quiet cemetery in Queens, a groundskeeper noticed something strange. Near a headstone. At first, he thought it was normal flowers, maybe candles left by a visitor. But as he got closer, his steps slowed. Then stopped. Because what he was looking at didn't feel normal at all. It wasn't a tribute. It wasn't respect. It wasn't grief. It felt like a message. A deliberate one. And worse, it was aimed at one person. 50 Cent. The groundskeeper immediately called security. Within minutes, the cemetery wasn't quiet anymore. Cars arrived. Black SUVs. Tinted windows. Security teams stepping out slowly, scanning the area like something had gone wrong, or was about to. Nobody was speaking loudly. Nobody needed to. Because everyone already understood this wasn't random. This was intentional. And somehow, it was connected to King's viral video. By midday, whispers had already spread through the industry. People weren't asking what happened. They were asking who did it. Because whatever was left at that grave wasn't just disrespectful. It wasn't just provocative. It was psychological warfare. A line crossed that almost nobody in hip-hop ever dares to touch. And that line, family, specifically his mother. To understand why this matters, you have to understand something about 50 Cent. Before the fame, before the empire, before the jokes, memes, and billionaire energy, he was Curtis, a kid from Jamaica, Queens, raised by a woman who shaped his entire existence, tough, protective, and central to everything he became. Losing her wasn't just emotional. It was foundational trauma, something he rarely speaks about unless forced, something he protects more than anything else in his life. And that's why this situation hit differently. Because once you bring that into the conversation, you're not dealing with rap beef anymore. You're dealing with something personal, dangerously personal. Now rewind. Back to King Harris' viral moment. The video that started it all. Loud, defiant, unfiltered. He wasn't just talking, he was performing confidence like he was untouchable. But the internet didn't just watch it. It amplified it. And in that amplification, something dangerous happened. Old narratives resurfaced. Old tensions got attached to new drama. And suddenly, King wasn't just a rapper's son going viral. He was being placed into a situation he never understood the depth of. Because here's the truth. There was never a real connection between King and 50 Cent. No history, no relationship, no built-up tension. Just a viral moment that got out of control. But in entertainment, perception is reality. And once the narrative forms, it doesn't need truth anymore. It only needs momentum. And that momentum got violent. Because while the internet joked, something else may have been happening behind the scenes. A message, a setup, or something even worse. Because when cemetery security checked the surveillance footage, they found something impossible. The entry logs showed nothing unusual. No visitors recorded. No sign of movement. But the camera system, it glitched. Exactly 22 minutes of missing footage. Corrupted, right around the time the object appeared. And that's when things stopped feeling like coincidence and started feeling like design. Because the timing was too perfect, too targeted, too clean. And in this industry, clean doesn't exist. Now the question started spreading quietly through back channels. Was someone sending a warning? Was King being used as a trigger? Was this designed to provoke a reaction from 50 Cent? Or was this something deeper, something orchestrated? Because in entertainment wars, nothing is ever due. Sent personal. There are always layers, always hidden hands, always someone benefiting from chaos. And as the pressure built, so did the paranoia. People close to the situation say 50 Cent didn't react immediately. He didn't post. He didn't comment. He didn't joke. He went silent. And for someone known for controlling narratives through humor and trolling, silence is never weakness. It's preparation. Meanwhile, the industry started splitting. Some believed King crossed a line he didn't understand. Others believed he was being positioned, used as a pawn in a much larger game. But one thing everyone agreed on. Something about this didn't feel organic. Something about it felt engineered. Then came the rumors. Not loud ones. Quiet ones. The dangerous kind. That someone else may have been involved in shaping the narrative before King ever spoke. That the viral moment wasn't spontaneous. That it was encouraged, pushed, amplified, and now backfiring. Because once 50 Cent heard about what was allegedly left at his mother's grave, insiders say his entire energy changed. Not anger, not emotion, clarity, the kind that usually comes right before decisions are made that nobody sees coming. And that's where this situation now sits. Not in public, not online, but behind closed doors, where the real moves are made. Because if this really was a setup, then King isn't the center of it. He's just the signal. And the real question now isn't what was said. It's who decided it would be said in the first place. And when that answer finally comes out, this won't be a viral moment anymore. It will be fallout. The moment the sun rose over Jamaica, Queens, the situation stopped being just another online argument. What had started as a loud, messy exchange between 50 Cent and King Harris suddenly shifted into something heavier, something that didn't feel like internet drama anymore. It felt planned, controlled, almost staged. At first, people online were laughing. Another young celebrity talking reckless, another viral clip, another moment of clout chasing that would die out in a day or two. That's how it looked on the surface. But behind the scenes, something else was unfolding, something nobody expected would reach this level. Because while the internet was focused on the video, while clips were being replayed and memes were being made, someone else was paying attention in a completely different way. Someone didn't just hear King Harris' words. They took them seriously, personally, and then they decided to respond, but not online. The first sign something was wrong didn't come from social media. It came from a cemetery. Early that morning, a groundskeeper doing routine rounds noticed something unusual near a familiar headstone. At first glance, it looked like someone had simply visited. Maybe flowers, maybe candles, normal things people leave behind. But as he got closer, the feeling changed. Something wasn't right. The closer he walked, the more unnatural it felt. He stopped, looked again, stepped back, then forward. It wasn't flowers. It wasn't a tribute. It was something intentional. Something placed there with meaning. The groundskeeper immediately alerted security. Within minutes, the cemetery staff were involved, then management, then private security, and within an hour, unmarked vehicles started appearing outside the gates. Men in dark clothing, scanning the area, speaking in low voices, treating the situation like a threat rather than a misunderstanding. Because whatever had been left there wasn't random. And worse, it was connected to the recent online situation involving 50 Cent and King Harris. By the afternoon, whispers had already started spreading through the entertainment industry. Not public statements, not official news, whispered conversations, private messages, quiet phone calls. Something was found at the grave. It's bad. It's connected to that video. 50's going to react when he sees this. Nobody had full details, but everyone agreed on one thing. It wasn't normal, and it wasn't harmless. To understand why this moment hit so deeply, you have to understand what that grave represents to 50 Cent. This wasn't just a public figure. This was Curtis Jackson, a man shaped by loss long before fame ever entered his life. His mother wasn't just family to him. She was foundation, protection, identity. Her death wasn't just something he experienced. It became something that defined how he moved through the world afterward. That's why there is one line in his entire world that no one crosses. No jokes, no disrespect, no exceptions. His mother. So when King Harris posted that viral clip, talking reckless, acting aggressive, trying to prove a point to the internet, it was easy for most people to dismiss it as young energy, clout chasing, a moment of attention seeking. But to people who understand 50 Cent's history, it wasn't just noise. It was dangerous territory. Because once certain lines are mentioned, even casually, they don't stay in line anymore. They echo somewhere else. And that's exactly what happened. Days after the video, reports began circulating that something had been left at the cemetery. At first, it sounded like a rumor. Then more people started repeating it. Then security footage was mentioned. Then corruption in the camera system. A gap appeared in the recording. 22 minutes missing, glitched, corrupted, right during the time window when the item was supposedly placed. That detail changed everything. Because cemeteries don't just lose footage like that. Especially not at the exact moment something controversial happens in the public eye. That kind of coincidence doesn't go unnoticed in an industry built on paranoia and pattern recognition. Then came the description of what was actually found. At first it was mistaken for cloth, but it wasn't cloth. It was a black shirt, folded neatly. On the front, written in thick marker, were the words, "Family Business." Next to it sat a partially burned candle, one of those used in cemetery rituals, still warm enough to suggest it hadn't been there long. And beside that, a torn piece of paper. Written on it, "Say it to my face." That phrase immediately triggered attention online because it matched something King had shouted during one of his viral moments. The internet caught it instantly. Screenshots spread. Theories exploded. Was this connected to him? Was it imitation? Was someone framing him? Or was it something deeper? Then investigators noticed something even more disturbing. A small recording device was found near the headstone, partially buried in the soil. Not placed carelessly, placed deliberately, as if whoever left it wanted to capture something. When security checked it, the device was damaged, but the memory card inside was still intact. And what they recovered changed the entire direction of the story. The audio didn't come from the cemetery. It came from a car. Two male voices, low, tense, moving quickly. "Bro, hurry up, we ain't staying here long." The rest was unclear, broken by static, but the tone alone suggested urgency. Fear, coordination, not a random visit, a timed operation. That's when the industry stopped calling it drama and started calling it something else. A setup. Because the details didn't match a spontaneous act. The timing, the missing footage, the recording device, the symbolic objects, all of it pointed to planning, execution, intent. Then came another layer. A claim surfaced that the handwriting on the note didn't match King Harris. That detail alone shifted the conversation again. If true, it meant someone might have used his name, his image, his words, without his involvement. And that raised a much darker possibility. That king wasn't the instigator. He was being positioned, used as a trigger, a spark in a much larger conflict between forces he didn't even fully understand. And suddenly, his silence made sense. No live streams, no responses, no jokes, just disappearance. And in this world, silence doesn't mean peace, it means pressure. Behind the scenes, conversations started shifting, not just among fans, but within the industry itself. People started asking the same question in different ways. Who benefits from this? Because 50 Cent doesn't respond to chaos like most people. He studies it, waits, connects the dots, and when he finally moves, it's rarely loud, but it is final. Reports from insiders suggest his reaction to the cemetery situation wasn't anger. It wasn't emotional. It was controlled, cold, focused. The kind of silence that usually comes right before action. And somewhere in the middle of all this, one truth started forming across every leak, every rumor, every conversation. This was never just about King Harris. And it was never just about 50 Cent. Something or someone had turned both of them into pieces in a much larger game. A game where the rules weren't public, and the next move hadn't been made yet. What the investigation uncovered next completely changed the direction of the entire story. Because once it became clear that whoever was at the cemetery was King Harris, and that someone had intentionally staged everything to make it look like him, the situation stopped being about online beef. It stopped being about a viral video. It stopped even being about disrespect. It became something far more calculated. A setup. And if that was true, then the real question was what happened at the grave. It was who wanted it to happen. Because every new detail pointed in the same direction. Someone had planned this. Someone had engineered the timing, the symbols, even the reaction they expected from 50 Cent. The goal wasn't just to send a message, it was to provoke a specific emotional response. And it worked almost too perfectly. But just when investigators thought they had seen everything, they found something else buried beneath the surface that shifted the entire narrative again. It was deeper in the soil than anything else. Hiding carefully, not something dropped by accident, something placed with intention, pressure, and time. A small velvet pouch, tied tightly, heavy, damp from the ground. When security finally opened it, the entire room changed atmosphere instantly. People didn't speak. Nobody joked. Even experienced staff stepped back without realizing it. Inside was a broken gold chain. At first, it looked like jewelry, until someone recognized it. It wasn't random. It was designed. A replica of the exact type of chain 50 Cent wore in his early teenage years, long before fame, before the music career, before the persona. Back when he was just Curtis, growing up in Jamaica, Queens, under circumstances that shaped everything he would later become. More importantly, it matched a chain he once spoke about publicly, a chain connected to his mother, a symbol tied to his earliest memories of her, something deeply personal, something irreplaceable in meaning, even if not in material value. And now it was broken, snapped in half, buried at her grave. That detail changed everything. Because this wasn't disrespect for attention. This wasn't trolling. This was targeted psychological pressure. Someone wasn't just trying to provoke 50 Cent. They were trying to activate a specific emotional wound. The kind that doesn't fade with time. The kind that stays buried until something forces it back to the surface. And whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. But then came something even more disturbing. Wrapped around the broken chain was a piece of fabric, torn from a hoodie. At first, investigators thought it might belong to King Harris, especially after the internet had already started linking him to the situation. But when they examined it closely, it didn't match his clothing exactly. It was imitation. A copy. Someone had deliberately replicated his style, staged the fabric, and placed it there to reinforce a narrative that would already be forming in the public eye. This wasn't just a message anymore. It was framing, and every layer of it was intentional. Then the audio analysis added another piece to the puzzle. The recording device found near the grave hadn't just captured voices. It had captured environmental detail, background sound that was initially dismissed as noise. But when enhanced, it revealed something subtle yet chilling. A whistle, long controlled, repeated at a distance. Not random, not accidental. A coordination signal. Followed by a car unlocking sound, specifically a high-end vehicle with a customized alarm system. The kind that doesn't belong to everyday traffic. The kind tied to specific ownership, specific circles, specific access. And that detail immediately narrowed the focus. Because while King Harris didn't own anything like that, there were people far beyond him who did. People with history. People with motives. People who had no public connection to this situation, but had long-standing tension with 50 Cent behind the scenes. That's when the tone of the investigation shifted again. This wasn't a reaction to King. It was a cover using King. A distraction layered over something much older, much deeper, and far more deliberate. Then came the anonymous envelope. No return address, no explanation, just left at the cemetery office. Inside was a single photo. A grainy, night vision image of the cemetery entrance, taken from inside a vehicle. The timestamp matched the exact moment the security cameras glitched. And on the back, 2 words written in black ink. Check deeper. That was enough for investigators to reopen everything. They returned to the grave, used detection equipment, and this time they found something they missed before. A buried burner phone. No battery. No external trace. But when the SIM card was recovered and analyzed, it revealed a single outgoing message. Sent at exactly 3:14 a.m. The night everything happened. The message was only 2 words. It's done. That was the moment everything escalated from suspicious to coordinated. Because 3:14 a.m. wasn't random either. It was exactly 13 minutes after King Harris ended his viral live stream. Meaning whoever was behind this wasn't just aware of King's video. They were watching it in real time. Waiting, timing, using his words as cover while executing something else entirely. By now, the theory became unavoidable. King wasn't the source of the incident. He was the signal, a trigger used to justify actions already planned in advance. And the deeper investigators looked, the more disturbing the pattern became. Because this wasn't improvised. It wasn't emotional. It was structured like an operation. Even more chilling, an anonymous eyewitness later came forward claiming they saw a black SUV near the cemetery that night. Not speeding, not panicking. Parked, waiting. Inside a driver. Gloves on. Face covered. Not watching the grave. Watching the entrance. And according to the witness, he wasn't alone. There was someone else in the passenger seat. Silent. Still. Just observing. Like they already knew exactly how everything was going to unfold. And that final detail changed the entire interpretation of the case. Because if that's true, then what happened at the cemetery wasn't the beginning. It was the execution of a plan that had already been set in motion long before King Harris ever spoke a word. The moment the news broke that something else had been discovered beneath 50 Cent's mother's grave, the entire atmosphere around this situation shifted again. What started as online noise, then turned into a disturbing real-world incident, was now evolving into something nobody could easily explain. This wasn't just about a viral video anymore. It wasn't just about King Harris and a reckless live stream. And it definitely wasn't just about internet clout. Every new detail made one thing clearer. Someone had planned this carefully, and the deeper investigators went, the more intentional it all looked. At this point, the internet wasn't reacting like fans anymore. It was reacting like witnesses to a crime unfolding in real time. Because after the burned candle, the fake hoodie fabric, the handwritten note, the smashed recorder, and the hidden audio device, investigators believed they had seen everything. They were wrong. Deep beneath the soil, almost deliberately buried out of sight, they found a small velvet pouch. At first, it looked harmless, just another object left behind in confusion or disrespect. But when security finally opened it, the entire room changed energy instantly. Inside was a broken gold chain. Not just any chain. It was a replica of the exact style 50 Cent wore in his early teenage years, long before fame, before music, before the world knew him as 50 Cent. It was the same type of chain his mother once bought for him, the same one he had mentioned in interviews as one of the last meaningful items tied to his childhood. And now it was broken. On purpose. That detail alone made everything feel different. This wasn't random disrespect. This was symbolic targeting. Someone wasn't just attacking 50 Cent the celebrity. They were attacking Curtis Jackson the person. The version of him that still carried memories of his mother, Sabrina, and everything he lost when she passed. But it didn't stop there. Wrapped around the broken chain was a piece of torn fabric, a hoodie material, and it matched the exact style King Harris was seen wearing in his viral video. That's when confusion turned into something darker. Because now it looked like someone was intentionally stitching together a narrative, a setup, a frame job designed to connect King to something he may never have even been physically part of. Investigators became even more cautious when they revisited the audio recorder data. Hidden beneath the surface noise, beneath the static, the whispers, and the car sounds, was a pattern, a whistle, a pause, then a distinct car alarm chirp from a high-end vehicle with a modified security system. Experts immediately recognized it wasn't random. It belonged to a specific class of luxury cars, custom systems, rare modifications, and more importantly, it didn't match any vehicle linked to King Harris or his known circle. So if King wasn't physically there, then who was? That question changed the entire direction of the investigation. Because suddenly, King stopped looking like the actor in this story and started looking like the cover. Someone had used his name, his moment, his viral clip, his energy as a distraction layer. And the more investigators dug, the more that theory made sense. Then came the envelope. No return address, no fingerprints, just a single photograph inside, a blurry nighttime shot of the cemetery gate. The timestamp matched the exact window when surveillance footage mysteriously corrupted. On the back of the photo were 2 words written in pen: "Check deeper." That was the moment security stopped treating this as a simple incident and started treating it like a coordinated operation. They returned to the site with full equipment: metal detectors, ground scanners, surveillance backup, and that's when they found it. Another object, buried even deeper than the first. A dead burner phone. Battery removed, screen cracked, but the SIM card inside was still intact. When analysts recovered the data, they found one single message sent at 3:14 a.m. the night everything happened. "It's done." No context, no sender name, no saved number. Just that. And the timing made everything worse. Because 3:14 a.m. was just minutes after King Harris ended his viral live stream. Which meant someone wasn't just watching events unfold. They were timing them. They were waiting. Reacting in real time. Using his public moment as cover for something private. At this point, the theory shifted again. This wasn't just about framing King Harris. This was about provoking 50 Cent. Emotionally, strategically, intentionally. Because 50 Cent reacting emotionally isn't just a headline. It's a chain reaction. It shifts narratives. It escalates attention. It forces responses. And whoever orchestrated this understood that perfectly. Then came the eyewitness account. A cab driver, speaking anonymously, claimed he saw a black SUV near the cemetery during the exact window of time everything happened. 2 figures exited. Not one. 2. One approached the grave site. The other stayed inside the vehicle. Recording. Watching. Waiting. And according to him, it didn't look rushed or chaotic. It looked planned, controlled, almost rehearsed. Then he added one final detail that made the internet freeze. The SUV had custom plates. And those plates matched a vehicle linked years ago to someone 50 Cent publicly had issues with in the past. A rivalry that ended suddenly, quietly, without explanation. Now the past was bleeding into the present. And the internet started asking the same question everywhere. Was this really about King Harris at all? Or was King just the most visible piece of a much older conflict? As speculation exploded, another detail surfaced from inside the cemetery staff. The glitch in the cameras wasn't a malfunction. It was a signal jam, professional-grade interference, the kind used deliberately to erase surveillance during sensitive operations. That detail changed everything again. Because now it wasn't just a setup. It was execution-level planning. But the most disturbing twist came when investigators analyzed the positioning of the objects. The chain, the note, the candle, the recorder, the phone, they weren't randomly placed. They formed a pattern, a structure, almost like a message. Not to the public, to one person, 50 Cent. And when his inner circle finally briefed him fully, sources say his reaction wasn't loud. It wasn't emotional. It was something far worse. He went completely quiet. Because in his world, silence doesn't mean confusion. It means calculation. And somewhere behind all of this, the framing, the symbols, the timing, the recordings, and the hidden message, one truth was becoming unavoidable. This was never just about a feud. It was about triggering a response. And the moment 50 Cent connects every name involved, the entire situation stops being internet speculation and becomes something no one online is prepared for. What investigators uncovered wasn't just another disturbing object. It was a direct link, something that tied this entire situation to an old, almost forgotten enemy from 50 Cent's past. A figure who had vanished from the spotlight years ago, but apparently never vanished from memory. And suddenly, the story stopped being about King Harris. It stopped being about an internet moment. And it started feeling like something much older, something unfinished. For hours, the world sat in suspense. Timelines kept refreshing. Blogs held drafts ready to publish. Insiders refused to confirm or deny anything, but their silence said enough. Because everyone knew one thing. Something had been found beneath the soil of 50 Cent's mother's grave. Something investigators were not prepared for. And when the details finally leaked, even the people handling the case admitted it changed the direction of everything. Deep inside a second buried layer, wrapped in plastic, sealed in duct tape and locked inside a small metal container, they found a single object. A .380 shell casing. Clean, preserved, almost intentionally polished. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than old ammunition. But for anyone familiar with 50 Cent's history, it meant something else entirely. Because that caliber wasn't random. It was tied to one of the most infamous moments of his life, the shooting that nearly killed him, the attack where he was hit 9 times, the event that didn't just change his body, it changed his identity. That was the moment Curtis Jackson stopped being just a young man from Queens and became 50 Cent, the survivor, the symbol of resilience, the story everyone thought they understood. But now someone had brought that moment back, deliberately, and placed it at his mother's grave. That wasn't disrespect anymore. That was psychological warfare. And it didn't end there. Etched into the base of the shell casing, barely visible unless magnified, were 2 letters. CL. That detail alone sent shockwaves through hip-hop circles. Because CL wasn't just random initials. Years ago, before fame fully cemented 50 Cent's rise, rumors circulated about a rival connected to those letters. A figure tied to the streets, tied to old conflicts, and tied to unresolved tension that never fully disappeared. Some said he went quiet after 50's rise. Some believed he was locked up. Others whispered something darker, that he was gone entirely. This wasn't random. This was designed. And now, with coordinates leading to another cemetery, with a name from the past resurfacing, with symbolic objects tied to trauma, and with silence from 50 Cent growing heavier by the hour, the situation has crossed into something no longer contained online. It's no longer about entertainment. It's about movement. And somewhere in Queens, a location is waiting. And so is a decision. Because once 50 Cent follows that trail, nothing about this story stays in the internet anymore. It becomes real.